Welcome back to the channel. If you're passionate about amazing stories, unforgettable twists, and powerful life lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Now, let's dive into today's story. The high-end watch store on the bustling street of downtown Los Angeles was a place where only the wealthiest dared to enter. Rows of glittering timepieces, each more expensive than the last, sat behind pristine glass displays. The sales staff, dressed impeccably in tailored suits, greeted customers with calculated smiles, carefully assessing their worth before offering assistance. The door swung open with a soft chime, and in walked a man wearing a worn leather jacket, faded jeans, and scuffed boots. His hair was slightly disheveled, and a hint of stubble shadowed his face. Keanu Reeves stood quietly, scanning the displays with the quiet confidence of someone who wasn't in a hurry. Behind the counter, Eric, a young employee known for his sharp tongue and sharper judgment, sized him up with a quick glance. He immediately dismissed him as another window shopper, someone who didn't belong in a place like this. With a forced smile, he approached Keanu. "Can I help you?" Eric asked, his tone more patronizing than polite. Keanu looked up and smiled warmly. "I was wondering if I could see that watch," he said, pointing to a sleek, platinum timepiece nestled at the center of the display. Eric's smile faltered. "That's the Celestial chronograph," he said curtly. "It's one of our most exclusive pieces. Maybe you'd prefer something more in your range." Keanu raised an eyebrow but kept his tone light. "It's a beautiful watch. I'd really like to take a closer look." Eric let out a short laugh, glancing at his colleagues who smirked from a distance. "Sir, with all due respect, this watch costs more than most people make in a year. Perhaps you'd feel more comfortable browsing our catalog instead." He gestured to a stack of glossy brochures at the far end of the counter, as if to steer Keanu away. A silence hung in the air as Keanu considered his response. Finally, he nodded slightly, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "I see," he said softly. "Thank you for your time." As Keanu turned to leave, Eric muttered under his breath, just loud enough for his colleagues to hear, "Some people don't know their place." The group chuckled quietly, confident the scruffy man wouldn't be back. Keanu pushed the door open and stepped out into the crisp evening air. For a moment, he lingered on the sidewalk, looking back at the store. There was no anger in his expression, just quiet contemplation. Then, with a faint smile, he walked away, leaving the store employees smug in their assumptions. Minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the store, and a sharply dressed man stepped out, scanning the storefront with purpose. He straightened his tie, adjusted his cufflinks, and entered the store with an air of authority. Next, inside the store, the employees straightened up instantly as the man walked in. His tailored suit and polished demeanor screamed power, and Eric's smug grin vanished the moment their eyes met. "Good evening, sir," Eric greeted, his voice suddenly dripping with politeness. "Welcome to Time and Prestige. How may we assist you today?" The man looked around the store, his gaze sharp and calculating. "I'm here on behalf of a client," he said briskly, his tone leaving no room for small talk. "He was here a few minutes ago. I believe you know who I'm referring to." Eric blinked in confusion. "A client? I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not sure." The man cut him off with a pointed look. "The gentleman wearing a leather jacket. You dismissed him." Eric's face turned pale. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks, but he tried to recover quickly. "Oh, him. Yes, I remember. He seemed lost. I assumed he wasn't serious about buying anything." He forced a nervous laugh, hoping to mask his growing unease. The man's expression hardened. "That lost gentleman happens to be one of our most valued patrons. And not just yours. He's a key investor in several luxury brands, including this store." A heavy silence fell over the room. Eric's colleagues exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier amusement now replaced with dread. The man stepped closer, his voice dropping to a cold, sharp edge. "He requested to see a specific watch, didn't he? The Celestial chronograph." Eric swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. "Why yes, but I didn't think he—" "You didn't think," the man interrupted, his tone icy. "Instead, you judged, you assumed. And in doing so, you not only disrespected a valued customer, but you also tarnished the reputation of this establishment." Eric opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He stood there, frozen, as the man continued. Mr. Reeves has a reputation for his humility and kindness, something this store clearly lacks in its staff. He specifically asked me to return and ensure that the treatment he received here is addressed. Eric felt the weight of the words, and his colleagues shifted uncomfortably. The man wasn't done yet. Consider this a formal warning. If Mr. Reeves decides to withdraw his support, this store, and your positions, might not last long. Before anyone could respond, the man pulled out a sleek phone and made a quick call. Yes, it's me. Send someone to pick up the celestial chronograph. Have it delivered to Mr. Reeves' address immediately. He ended the call and turned back to Eric. Perhaps this will teach you a lesson in humility. Without another word, he walked out, leaving the staff in stunned silence. Outside, Keanu was leaning casually against a nearby lamppost, a faint smile playing on his lips. The man walked up to him and handed him a card. It's done, he said simply. Keanu nodded, slipping the card into his pocket. Thank you. I just hope they learn something from this. The man smiled slightly. They will. Trust me. As the black car drove away, Keanu glanced back at the store. A passerby recognized him and hesitated, unsure whether to approach. Keanu smiled warmly and waved. Don't judge people by appearances, he murmured to himself, his voice carrying a quiet wisdom. With that, he turned and walked away, blending seamlessly into the evening crowd. Keanu walked down the dimly lit street, the soft hum of city life buzzing around him. Despite what had just happened, his mind wasn't consumed by anger or bitterness. He had seen this kind of judgment before, people making snap decisions based on appearances, failing to look deeper. It wasn't new, but it always saddened him. Turning a corner, he entered a small diner he frequented, a place far from the glitz of the luxury store. The owner, a kind elderly woman named Martha, greeted him with a warm smile as he slid into his usual booth. Rough day, she asked, setting down a steaming cup of coffee in front of him. Not really, Keanu replied with a small chuckle. Just another reminder of how quick people are to judge. Martha raised an eyebrow, her wrinkled face full of curiosity. Care to share? Keanu hesitated for a moment, then shrugged. I walked into a watch store earlier. Wanted to take a look at something, but the staff decided I wasn't worth their time. Martha's expression softened. Some people have no idea who they're talking to, huh? Keanu laughed softly. That's the funny part. It doesn't matter who I am. It shouldn't matter. They should treat everyone with respect, no exceptions. Martha nodded, her eyes glinting. With understanding. That's why you're different, Keanu. You see people for who they are, not what they have. As they talked, the door to the diner opened, and a young boy ran in, followed closely by his mother. The boy, no older than 10, was wearing a faded hoodie and clutching a small notebook. He looked around nervously before spotting Keanu. Mom, it's him, the boy whispered excitedly, tugging at her sleeve. The mother gave an apologetic smile and approached cautiously. I'm so sorry to bother you, Mr. Reeves. My son is a big fan, and he recognized you from across the street. He's been wanting to meet you for years. Keanu's face lit up with genuine warmth. No bother at all, he said, turning to the boy. What's your name? Ryan, the boy said shyly, holding out his notebook. I drew this for you. Keanu took the notebook and flipped through the pages. It was filled with hand-drawn pictures of his movie characters, from Neo to John Wick. Despite the rough sketches, the effort and passion were unmistakable. These are amazing, Ryan, Keanu said, his voice full of admiration. You've got real talent. Ryan beamed, and his mother's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she said quietly. Keanu glanced at Martha, who smiled knowingly and nodded. Turning back to Ryan, he said, you know, I think I could use some company. How about you and your mom join me for a snack? The boy's face lit up as he eagerly slid into the booth. For the next hour, Keanu listened intently to Ryan talk about his dreams of becoming an artist, offering words of encouragement and advice. The watch store incident was long forgotten, replaced by the joy of connecting with someone who truly appreciated him, not for his fame, but for his kindness. Outside the diner, the sleek black car returned, the driver stepping out with a carefully wrapped package in hand. But Keanu waved him off, gesturing for him to wait. For now, this moment with Ryan was far more valuable than any luxury watch. Next, as the evening grew darker, the small diner glowed warmly under its neon sign, a stark contrast to the cold luxury of the watch store from earlier. Keanu sat across from Ryan and his mother, their laughter and easy conversation filling the booth. Ryan had pulled out his pencil and was sketching something furiously while Keanu leaned over, genuinely interested in the boy's work. "Your lines are so dynamic," Keanu said, pointing at the sketch. "You've got a great sense of movement. Have you ever thought about creating your own comic book?" Ryan's eyes widened. "You think I could?" "Absolutely," Keanu said with a smile. "Dream big, Ryan. And when people tell you it's impossible, just work harder and prove them wrong." The boy's mother wiped a tear from her cheek, overwhelmed by the kindness of this unexpected moment. "Thank you," she said softly. "You have no idea what this means to him. To both of us." Before Keanu could respond, the door to the diner swung open, and a sharply dressed man entered. It was the same man who had visited the watch store earlier. He carried a sleek black box in his hands, wrapped in an elegant bow. The diner fell quiet as he approached Keanu's booth. Ryan and his mother looked at him curiously, while Martha watched from behind the counter with a raised eyebrow. "Mr. Reeves," the man said, setting the box on the table in front of him. "The celestial chronograph, as requested. It's been personally delivered to you." Keanu looked at the box for a moment, then at the man. "Thank you," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But I don't think I'll be needing it." The man's brow furrowed in confusion. "Sir, it's already been handled." "The store." Keanu held up a hand to stop him. "I appreciate the effort, but a watch is just a watch. It doesn't define who I am, and it definitely doesn't fix what happened earlier." The man opened his mouth to argue, but Keanu's steady gaze stopped him. "If you really want to make things right, focus on how you treat people, not just me, but everyone who walks through that door." The man nodded slowly, understanding the weight of Keanu's words. "I'll make sure of it," he said quietly, before turning and leaving the diner. Keanu turned back to Ryan, whose eyes were wide with awe. "You didn't take it?" the boy asked. Keanu smiled. "Sometimes the best way to teach someone a lesson is to show them what really matters. And it's not about fancy things, it's about how we treat each other." Ryan nodded, his young mind processing the wisdom in Keanu's words. "I'll remember that." As the night went on, Keanu paid for everyone's meal at the diner before stepping outside into the cool air. Ryan ran after him, clutching the notebook he'd been sketching in. "Wait," the boy called. Keanu turned, kneeling to meet him at eye level. "I made this for you," Ryan said, tearing a page from his notebook. It was a drawing of Keanu as a superhero, standing tall with a simple caption beneath, "Kindness is power." Keanu looked at the drawing for a long moment, his expression softening. "Thank you, Ryan," he said, carefully folding the paper and tucking it into his jacket pocket. "This means more to me than any watch ever could." As Keanu walked away, blending into the quiet streets once more, Ryan looked up at his mother and grinned. "He's just like a real-life hero, isn't he?" She smiled, pulling him close. "He really is." And somewhere down the street, under the glow of the city lights, Keanu Reeves disappeared into the night, leaving behind a story that would be remembered for years to come. The end. Thank you for giving me the chance to craft this story. If you'd like to explore other concepts, deepen the narrative style, or try new twists with Keanu Reeves or any other inspiring themes, just let me know. I'm here to bring your creative vision to life.